repeat this over and over. But that's been the interesting challenge. Well, I'll play through some of the stuff.
Hang on a second. Let me one quick thought on that.
Yeah,
Um, you want to try to, and it looks like you're doing this really well. You sort of try to keep your hands positioned by where you're touching the guitar up here, right? Like you can't like feel around for the strings, and you can't put an anchor down and stuff like that, right?
right.
So when I walk up and pick up the guitar, I sometimes think about how like blind piano players get oriented, But
Yep.
it's pretty simple. It's like they sit down and they find two notes or something, and it's like then they might even move their body so that they know exactly where they are. We're talking Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, people like that, right?
Right.
And so with the guitar, you kind of want to get in the habit of just putting your hand down here and putting your thumb on the sixth string and all three fingers on the top three strings. It's like get them, like you're ready to play those four notes like this, you know and
Okay.
you want that to sort of be your home position, and don't let these fingers, like even here when you're going to do a pinch up here on the top string, don't let these fingers like get out here like this. It's like keep everything really close to home, like no matter what I'm doing here with my fingers, they're probably never more than a half an inch away from their target string, you
Yes.
know so I think even that would be just a good little exercise. Is like, put your hand on the guitar, find those strings, play them, do like just a little quick arpeggio like that, and then think about keeping them really close the whole time, and not
Yeah.
like, so um, anyway, but yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? Brain damage first, or what do you?
Uh,
Landslide. Let's talk about landslide first.
Landslide. Let's do landslide first. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a little more basic pattern,
Yeah.
for your
Yeah.
right hand.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
great warm up.
Let me get. Yeah. And the focus here has been pattern, and in the case of landslide, it's really the first three um, the first three lines here. But here, I'll just play through a little bit of
Just go
this
kind of
and
slowly through it.
remind myself of where we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That's pretty rough.
Yeah. Um, it seems like you have pretty good control of what's going on there. You're
Yeah.
generally hitting the notes you're trying to, and that's really good. What I would do right now with this is just work on those two measures that have this, just like the first two measures, over and over and over, and try to get it going about 50% faster than that. So that's, and don't even look at the music. It's like just get that pattern memorized
Hmm.
and practice it sort of brainlessly. It's like you want to just be able to keep that going. You're thinking about the chord changes, you
Yeah.
know. And you did a good job there with the putting your fingers down in the order you need them. Especially the only chord that's, well, it's important on the C chord, but on the G with B in the bass, as long as you get that bass note first, you got plenty of time to get the other finger down.
Yep. Yep.
And then of course the A minor 7 is really easy because the first you got open notes to start with,
Right.
But so it's basically the G with B in the bass and the C that are where you can have a little hesitation sometimes, you know, if you're not focused on it. So,
Right.
you know, work on getting it up to about that speed and to where you can just do it sub or unconsciously, you know, and be just being really precise with that. Try a little bit of that. Not necessarily quite as fast as I just did it, but
Okay.
don't even look at the music. Just think about what you're doing.
Okay. 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 Can I watch? Can I look at my hands?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Look at your left hand.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now that was really interesting because like the first 4 or 5 times, um, a comment, a little mistake kept happening. What was it? Until about the sixth or seventh time, you got everything exactly right.
Oh, well, I think I was missing that on the A7.
Oh, so the main thing I'm talking about here is the first few times through, the bass didn't alternate consistently. Sometimes you hit the same
Oh,
bass note 2 or 3 times in a row.
oh, really?
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
interesting that, but it's hard to notice that when you're the one doing it because you're
Yeah.
hearing the high notes. If you miss a high note, you know it. You know, it's like if you miss one of those melody notes, it's like, oh shoot, I didn't have that finger down or something. You know,
Oh,
but it's harder to listen to the bass notes because you just sort of take them for granted. And
yeah.
so it was about again the fifth or sixth time through, you nailed every bass note, and it was great. And the and then you played it for a really long time, and you know, so you did a good job sort of staying focused on that too, because it's like your mind can really start wandering, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so
Okay.
so that was about. I fired up the metronome while you were doing that just to see about, because that was my next suggestion going to be is like start doing this with a metronome and gradually speed it up. That was around 100 what you were just doing there, you know. So here's
Okay.
at the so the
Right.
bass notes at that speed. That's about what you were doing.
Okay.
Um, and you know, as sometimes try to do it a little faster, maybe even try to get it to 106, 108, or something like that, and it'll be sloppy. You know, it's like you're going to miss more notes when you start trying to go faster, but live with it. You know, it's like just and then crank it back down a little bit too. Maybe take it down to 95, so like below 100, This is also partly to practice playing with a metronome, getting used to staying
Yeah.
in time and stuff. I don't know if you do that very often or very much with things.
Started to do it.
Okay.
To do it. Yeah.
Usually, yeah, when you start, most people, when they start trying to play with a metronome, pretty soon reach the conclusion that it's impossible and that this metronome this is not keeping time or something like that. That's generally not the case.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it does take practice.
Yeah. No, what I found is that actually it was really helpful after I stopped. Um, well, I don't know what the right word. For whatever reason, I found myself getting ahead of it more often than behind it.
Mm.
That's what I found myself doing.
Yeah.
And so it was when I started thinking about the first note in the measure, making sure I got to the first note in the measure, whatever it happened to be, or in the chord change. That's when it started to work a little better. So I'm actually working on that.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
And sometimes, especially if we're using it for this little exercise, it wouldn't even hurt to like just put the metronome on and just play bass notes with it for 30 seconds. Like to really, get that speed and that feel of your thumb moving like this without any fingers at all, so that you're just working on staying synced up with it, you know.
right, right, right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, so around 100 is where you just did there, and that probably feels a little faster than I think you did that speed because that's about what I played it at just a second ago. So you had it in your head,
Yeah,
that might have been a little faster than we did earlier, but that's still it's totally
yeah.
doable.
Well, it felt like it was doable. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so okay, and
Oh, and one last thing about this song, when you were looking at the music there a while ago, um, it runs through that progression: the C, G with B, the A minor seven, always back to the G with B. And after, if you're singing it, or if you're ready to go into the next section, that's when that change comes where it goes to the D with F sharp in the bass, right?
yeah, yeah,
So that would never go back to a C chord. So that chord is always taking you to G into the next section.
okay,
So that's the only time, so until when you start looking at that other section, I would do the same thing with the other section. I wouldn't even look at the tablature as far as like exactly what notes you have to pick. See, when I wrote out that tab, because of what I think a lot of people really want at like Totally Guitars or whatever, is it's kind of exactly the way he played it with a lot of little variations and nuances that he put in there. I really like to have people play this without any of those and just get dialed in on this pattern so that even when it gets to the other section, here comes the D with F sharp, then to a G chord, the E minor, and then the C stuff. But see, I'm just doing the exact same thing here for every chord. So
okay,
that way that way you're working on the changes, which are a little more complicated. There's more chords in the other
right,
section.
right.
But don't look at the tab and try to get everything else in there until you can like just fly through the chords and you know exactly where you are in the song with just this exact same pattern in every measure.
And it sounds like when you were playing the pattern right there, it sounds like let's see, what would it be? It would be that,
Okay.
which would be the and of three. No, that sounds like the emphasis note. Is that the? It sounds like it when you play it. I don't need.
Yeah. So first of all, what beat is that? What beat is that note happening on?
Okay, it's two. It's the and of two.
Good. Yeah. So it's the end of two. So it follows the second bass note.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The reason it stands out, I am hitting it a little harder, but it's also the highest note we hear, and it rings the whole time. So every time I hit that note, it's the highest thing we're hearing in the whole range of sound, the spectrum there. And
Okay.
so if I did something different, I'll do that a couple of times. I'm definitely hitting that hard, because I want it to ring until I play it again. I'm not going to play it again until the next same beat of the next measure.
Right.
Whereas this note gets played every 2 beats,
Right.
right? So I'm really emphasizing it there. But now if I brought the first string in somewhere else, now right there, oh, right there I just did something different. At the very end, I played the high string,
Yeah.
but I played it really softly, so it didn't jump out at you, like it didn't take over the the spotlight.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a really, it's an important part of a much more complex finger picking when we get into it is the exact like volume or gain that you hit every note with. Like a lot of times when I write complicated instrumentals out, I have a lot of lessons on that kind of stuff, obviously, and I write them out, using this program, Guitar Pro. And what people like about Guitar Pro is that it'll play what you have. So it's like you can, whatever you have written down, they'll play it back, and then they'll watch my lesson on it on some instrumental, and then they'll play it in Guitar Pro and say, it doesn't sound anything like when you played it. I said, well, that's because everything is the same volume in Guitar Pro. It's every note has, and in the real scheme of making something musical, you almost have to have like 10 levels of accent for every single note you hit in order to make it really interesting and sound like there are different layers and all that kind of stuff, But the highest notes are the easiest ones to really stand out. Of anything that's happening. But I was definitely playing that note harder.
Okay. Okay.
Good observation.
But for my purposes, I should just think of that. I shouldn't think of it that way. I should just think of it as the and of two, and I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although one other thing along those lines you could practice, I talked about like when you're doing this with the metronome, it's good to do it at different speeds, and sometimes after you've done it at 100 and you try to do it at 90, you can't. It's like I can't keep the brakes on like that or something.
Yeah.
And I can't. And when you speed it up, it's going to mess you up a little bit. You're going to miss some notes. At first, it's going to be a little sloppier, but that's it's like you really improve by trying it at different speeds.
Right.
But also, something else you could do to challenge yourself is work on playing it as loud, as hard as you can. Hit those notes really hard. Like that's what I was doing in there. It's kind of like when I'm teaching or hoping the microphone picks up stuff. That if I just play something really lightly, it barely. Sometimes you can't even hear it, right? But so you could hear that I was hitting those notes hard, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to do that, because that also decreases your accuracy. If you hit a note harder, there's more recoil to your fingers further away from where you want it. Right. And so in the beginning, you're safer doing it softly, so that your fingers don't displace themselves too far. Right.
Yeah.
But then and then you try to do it louder, and you'll start missing more notes.
Okay.
But that's all good stuff. It's all good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. All right. Okay. So should we go through a similar exercise on brain damage here?
Yeah.
Just pick that one and put that in the queue here. Brain damage. I was driving down to get some coffee yesterday, and just as I pulled into the parking lot, brain damage comes on.
Oh.
So I have to sit there for the whole thing. I gotta wait. I gotta hear it out. I can't turn the car off.
What do you have playing in the car? Do you have an iPod hooked up or something, or?
Oh no! It's just no. This is my
Pandora or something.
This is my old Porsche that has nothing but a simple, old Blaupunkt radio in it, and the only thing that would play, the only station that I can get on this side of the hills that would play that is the Sacramento station that plays rock and roll. 96.9. The Eagle. Okay. They play stuff like that.
So it's classic rock version of stuff.
Yeah, classic rock. Exactly. Yeah. So there's brain damage. So I'd sit there for the whole thing. So
one in the quick interest of like full disclosure, he does not finger pick this like this. you know. But you what you hear him doing, and Pink Floyd. I mean, I love their stuff, and David Gilmour is just fabulous. But all he's really doing is picking out. He's doing this with a pick, not even with his fingers. He's just hitting the high notes. That's all he's doing. So
Okay.
we've turned this, or I've turned this into a finger picking song, but you hear other instruments. There's keyboards and bass, you know, so it's like the fact that that guitar is that minimalist. You know, if you just play the guitar part, what he's doing, it's like you can barely tell it's that song, you know.
Yeah.
But by applying, but combining it with this alternating bass, we've now got like a full solo version that you could sing along with or something, you know.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so it's if you were listening to that and trying to listen for his bass notes, you'd find that there aren't any. You know,
Okay.
it's just those high notes. So
Huh. So, but is somebody else playing a bass in the recording?
not an alternating bass like this. There's just the electric bass that Roger Waters plays in there. I'll have to go listen to that again now because I haven't really listened to it that carefully in many years, or with my analyst's hat on, because I've been teaching it like this for 30
Right.
years, since close to when it came out in 1980. You know, oh no, this was from Dark Side of the Moon before '73.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking there's other stuff on the wall that I'd
Right.
show people too. You know, but that was 1980. So. Yeah. Yeah. Um, you got all the moves are looking really good. You know, it's like you did a good job, especially there getting to the G7. You always got that pinch pretty. I think every time you got it with like the right finger. You know,
Right.
a little bit of trouble on the middle strings on the G chords, right? You know, just a little more accuracy with the first one. You know, the pinch is always good, and then making sure your first finger comes in on the string right next to where the thumb hits. Right, so you want to think about that as your because that's the easiest note to miss is to have your first finger play the second string
Yeah.
there instead of the third string, right? So you got to
Right.
get you and I think it's because your thumb just played the fourth string, right? So it's hard to keep that spacing right. You're almost like afraid to get too close to it. Um,
Right. Right.
so put a little bit of focus on that particular note. Chances are, if you get that note clean, you'll get this one clean that follows it. You know, when you have to play your second finger,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
On the A7, one time you got it exactly right. Where sometimes it's hard to remember on the A7 to switch to your ring finger for that first note, right? Because you've just come from the D shape up at E,
Right.
right? And then you move it up to the fourth fret, right?
Right.
Right? And then from there, really good change you're getting from the. I mean, your left hand did a really good job getting to the A7. You know, keeping your second finger on the second string, and then when you go to that A7, make
Yeah.
sure that your right hand grabs. Yeah, that looks good. And then your right hand. Yeah, make sure to start with your ring finger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got the hand position change under control with the when you go to G
Yeah.
to the G7, but the A needs a little bit of work.
Yeah. 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 It feels like I want to stay in the D position or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Here. This is what I need to get to.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Good job too on the D that the when it comes back to D and we've got that open string that comes in, right?
Yeah.
In the music, what happens after that? On the page you have, what do you see after that measure?
After that, it goes to.
Doesn't that happen twice?
Oh, this. Yeah, it does. It
Right.
goes. We repeat that whole thing twice.
Yeah.
Everything the through the and then it goes to strumming D7.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Right, and that sets us up for like the second section where you just strum through the chords, G to
Strum through
G
right,
to A to C and that stuff, right?
right. And they're the in the strumming part. The big challenge is the B minor
Yeah, and they would stop right there and then go right back to the picking.
and then go back to the picking.
Yeah.
And I've gone through that a number of times and keeping the timing going through all of that and then going from that A and grabbing the first note there
Yeah.
is it's well changing from this kind of motion that's I feel that's a challenge.
Yeah, getting that oriented. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if we talked about a strumming pattern that you would use through those chords or not. Did we?
Well, what's on the page here, which is only written out in the D7 piece.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is
Good. Okay. So that's what you want to do, and then those downs are at the
Yeah.
same speed as what you've been doing with your bass notes before. So when you come out of this to the A, the C, G, right? Through that whole sequence again. And if your head explodes in dark foreboding too, I'll see you. Here come the quick changes. Keep that beat. 3, 4. Yeah. Yeah.
fast. I went too fast, is what I did.
Yeah. That's okay. So you do have. That's actually why I counted it out there because I had a feeling that was going to happen. That you were going to get like pumped up for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, so don't forget, you're not gonna finish. You don't need to finish the strum on the A chord. Like just hit it once and count out the 1, 2, 3, 4. Take that whole measure to get situated. Oh yeah. So you're not trying to do this. Finish the measure and then get there. That's.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't want to say that's impossible because obviously I just did it, but it's like it's but you want to just hit you. Usually when you do have to transition from strumming back into picking, you want to stop and let that strum like ring out to even give like the listener's ears a rest, to be ready for that change. I mean, so it does not sound good to do this, to beat this up and then just drop down right like that. That's really clumsy sounding, so we want to hear this 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has a better re-entrance.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Up to that point, when you go through all this strumming, is all this strumming basically the same pattern though? Up to that point?
Yes. Yeah, just and I call that pattern, well, you could vary it. Oh, I'll get back to that in a second. I call this pattern the ballad pattern because it's generally one you use for slower songs. And what distinguishes it from the other, so I'll give a whole quick little rundown on the 3 or 4 basic strumming patterns that I would identify. The most normal one I want people to learn first is what I would call the folk strum, which is the one which is this, Tequila Sunrise. And what distinguishes that pattern is the rest on beat 3. So in other words, you miss the down on 3, right? And what makes that, so then the characteristic sound is the accent on the and of 2. That up on the and of 2 is what we hear as the kind of distinguishing feature, right?
Yeah.
If we wanted to do something that was more of a rock pattern, we need to hit 3. We would do this now. Just a quarter note and 6/8. Down, down, up, down, up, down, up. We'd use that in stuff like, Lord, I was born around and trying to make a living and doing. Okay, so that's a more what I call a rock pattern. And then this one, the ballad pattern, is what distinguishes it. Nothing on 2.
Nothing on 2.
We hear 1 and then 3 and then eighth notes on 4.
Right.
Right, okay? And this is really common in Pink Floyd songs. Sometimes a song I have people work on for this strum in particular is Comfortably Numb, speaking of more Pink Floyd stuff. B minor, A, G to E minor, back to B minor. Yeah. So anyway, that's again what I call the ballad pattern, and I didn't just make these up. I'm sure other people use similar terms. And the fourth kind of category is the country world. And what we do in country strums is we usually hit bass notes. Bass notes on 1 and 3.
Right.
And then so that's kind of like the 4 fundamental patterns. Oh, but so something I didn't get to then is in this song, even in Comfortably Numb, this again typical of Pink Floyd stuff, is we have chords for long periods of time, like meaning like 2 measures here. Okay, so what I would really do to make it a little bit more interesting is sometimes in the second measure, more strokes to sort of build up to the chord change that we'll start again with a big 1 and nothing until 3, meaning something like this. See, so much busier in the second measure.
Yeah.
Just by throwing in, and it could even be that I kind of hate to label it like this, but I could even do like just the rock strum in the second measure. That to me feels a little feels a little stiff, because it'd still be fine to leave some of those strokes out. But what I would probably do is hit beat 2 in that measure. So one of the real goals in even talking about or learning strumming patterns is to stop ever thinking about them and stop ever doing them. Just keep your hand moving and hit the strings whenever it seems right. So but you got to master the patterns first, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you, yeah.
There's some of those you can, like when you just play Tequila Sunrise there, that is so integral to that song. And then you just hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so speaking of that song, something else that happens in there is they've got a couple of little variations that make it. I mean, you could hear if I just do this, we could go into that, or we could do a nibbling on sponge cake. I mean, Margaritaville, same thing. Watching the sun bathe. You know, I mean, so it's used in all those things. But one thing they do in Tequila Sunrise. Oh wait, yeah. They put in a 16th note bounce and then a hammer on, meaning they really do this. That makes it really distinctive, you know, because you hear that 16th note double speed thing on
Right.
what on the and of, oh, I guess it's on 2. But anyway, so that's a little more advanced thing that I want to make sure everybody, before anybody tries that they've got everything else, you know.
Right. Those things though, that particular thing you just did there, you got to do that with a pick. You can't do that with.
It's better to do with the yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was on a G chord that I was doing that on. Oh, so actually, really slowly, since I got this recorder running here, I'll talk about that if you want to mess around with it a little bit, because the normal strum, this normal folk strum in Tequila Sunrise would be this: down, down, up, down, up. Right? Faster, that's this. Slower. And then this bounce would actually happen on the and of 1. 1, instead of missing that and, 1, 2, and. That's how this strum would start. Down, miss the up on and then another down and an up on 2, right? 1, 2, and. Well, what this 16th note bounce means, I have to do the up that I missed on the and of 1, I turn into a down and an up. So you hurry back to do this. Down, down, up. That was beat 1.
Okay.
So I did 2 downs on beat 1, on the beat on the and then even had an up. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense? And then to
Yeah.
compound it in Tequila Sunrise, after the up on the and of 2, wait, that's the and of 2.
Yeah.
On beat 3, there's a hammer on down here on the 4th string from D to E.
I didn't get that.
So the tricky, you had the second time you did it exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And what made it right was when you do the hammer on, you don't hit the strings. The hammer on happens during a missed down.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's why that second one came out exactly right. That's exactly what you did. Yeah.
Oh, and then yeah, you're back to
And
the yeah.
yeah. That was
Yeah.
really good because right there, the first one of those two that you just did,
Yeah.
you waited up here and now you're upside down. The
Yeah.
second time, so that you're doing a fake down. You're missing the down on 3 when you do the hammer on. That's
Yep.
got it.
Yep. Okay. I got it.
Okay, there you go. Something else fun to mess with this week.
Yeah, there we go. Fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna just continue through the what we were talking about here, the um, drill basically, and I'll do the metronome ish
Okay.
on
Yeah.
landslide and brain damage, and then maybe next week can move into dust in the wind, or um, if
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that additive to these or different or what would
It
you?
has one different thing than the brain damage one. It's only got one thing different, and that
Yeah.
is it has it's a C chord. The brain damage pattern applied to C would be this, right? Oh, with the pinch always on the second string. So in Dust in the Wind, they don't use the first string. It's just on the C in the introduction at least.
Mhm.
But it has one more note played on the and of 4. So you come in with this on the and of 4 just before the next pinch.
Okay.
And then this note changes in every measure. So
Okay.
that's like the little additions to
Okay.
that. So
Okay. Okay.
okay, you
So,
got it?
okay. All right. I will, well, I'll just bring that in. Part of the grills. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will I had one more thing I was going to tell you. Oh, I don't know if you saw what the lesson that went up yesterday, but I put up another John Prine lesson, Souvenirs.
Okay.
So you might want to take a look at that. It's got just like all of his songs. It's got a kind of specific little introduction, and then nothing too specific while he's singing. But I don't want you to get too caught up in it. Like, don't let it steal all your time if you look at it, because it's something like this.
Yeah.
Something like that. You know.
Okay.
So that could be a little fun diversion too if you need more.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well,
Okay.
great.
Yeah,
Next week, I think, um,
next
I'll
week's
have
good.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, Neil.
All right. I'll plan on seeing you next week,
All righty.
and I'll send you the link to this in a few minutes.
Okay.